Aloha, everyone. It is Wednesday, and that means it's news day. The DAS team has ventured forth once again, and we've seen things you wouldn't believe. Ships on fire off the shoulders of Orion. We watched a sea beam glitter in the dark near Tannhauser Gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in the rain. If not gathered and saved for you, moments such as Mistral announces Magistral, the latest in their open source models, now seasoned with reason. MAVs or MAVs that swoop and swerve like a bird. Hugging Face and MCP build without even leaving your favorite vibe coder. It is June 11th, 2025, episode 483. Today I'm joined by Beth and hopefully others, and I am Junmi. This is the Daily AI Show. All right, thank you everyone for joining us on the live stream, and for all of you who are watching later. If you haven't already, please click the bell, like, subscribe, and join the discussion at thedailyAIshow.com. Okay, so we will start off with a quick one, and
Okay.
one that I've been paying attention to for a little while now, and that is SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Guild. They have been on strike for video game projects, right? Primarily voice actors and other positions. But that contract has reached a tentative agreement, and so while we don't have any details yet, we hopefully will get SAG-AFTRA will get what they want from all of those video game publishers. The strike began on July 26, 2024, so it has been going on for quite a while, and they have been bargaining with big hitters such as Activision and Epic Games and EA and Disney and WB and things like that. Um, Now, the chief negotiator, Duncan Crabtree Ireland, has made the announcement, and comes with thanking all of the members, making their sacrifices, staying on the strike line, all of their supporters, things like that. And he's quoted as saying, "Patience and persistence has resulted in a deal that puts in place the necessary AI guardrails that defend performers' livelihoods in the AI age, along with other important gains." So maybe this tentative agreement is a really effectual one. I've had my reservations about the last strike agreement regarding the AI provisions for actors and performers. That only lasts for 3 years, and I believe that's coming up next year. So we'll see how that rolls out. But getting any forward traction, attention, awareness, this all kind of goes into what we're talking about, alignment in both how the AI is built and how AI is used.
Right.
Okay,
I
so
yeah. I feel like the how it is used is like there's a bunch of news stories about how it's built, right? There's a bunch of like, ooh, they recorded like um the dominant players likenesses and what they say and how they perform in movies is part of like the zeitgeist of what AI trained on, whether they trained on the actual movie or not. It's so widespread that they have a sense of the movie anyway, right? So they can do that kind of thing. But um and we kind of get stuck there. But moving forward is so key, right? For like, do we need actors? Do we need extras? Do we need I mean, can you do a movie that now, is both cheaper and looks comparable? It's a huge thing. I'm really excited.
it's true, and it's funny is there's been an example of this. of a practical versus computer generated.
Mhm.
Uh, so if you've watched Star Wars Andor, the show, they do nearly everything in practical. Like all of the sets are all practical. They build these enormous sets and they build these little mini cities to go shoot in, and there's a certain quality to that practicalness, right?
Mhm.
Um, that provides a certain kind of experience and immersiveness versus what a lot of productions use now is the volume, which is essentially an LED wall or an LED studio where they can project a generated background and the actors just do their thing in a studio, as that background is happening. An immense piece of equipment for sure, and a fantastic technology, but, you know, you can clearly see the difference, and this might be one of those kinds of cases where you're gonna see examples down the road of a practical first type of things, just like when, a lot of filmmakers didn't want to use digital. They still wanted to use film because of the certain qualities that you get from film and like that. So I'm sure there's gonna be that comparison, going down the road.
Right.
Okay,
Alright.
do you have a story that you
I
want to, regale us with?
I do, and I don't have a pivot from that, but this is the story that is most on my mind today, and it is, the big story is that O3, OpenAI released O3 Pro. So that's the big story, but I don't have, the pro level membership, so yay for pro level people. At the same time, uh, OpenAI announced that O3, the regular fat, I don't know, whatever the whatever the regular is called, just O3 has, dropped in price by 80%. So, it is now, it's now cheaper than 4.0. It's more comparable to 4.1. I believe it's $2 for 1,000,000 tokens input and $8 for 1,000,000 tokens output. They also added it to the Plus subscription, I guess was already in the Plus subscription. They had recently doubled the uses for the Plus subscription from 50 to 100. They have now also doubled it again. So now the Plus subscription gets 200 conversations per week with O3. And if you still need it and you need to use the API, it's pretty reasonable, right? Like that,
Right.
and that is very exciting. Um,
Yeah, I completely agree. I like to use O3 as my base model, so running into limits isn't
right.
ideal. Was there any mention of O3 Pro coming to Plus, or are they kind of this might be a, "Hey, this is where the separation is. You must be this tall to ride."
Um, O1 Pro never came to Plus, so I don't think O3 Pro is gonna come to Plus, but you can use it via the API if you need. Right? And it may be that the API is limited. I think that's why I bought my way into a higher level so that I could get access to O1 Pro and see what it was like, because that was, less expensive than the $200. That was less expensive and more, I could use more. I was gonna use those credits at some point within the year, so that I could see what that was like. I do think that, that O3 that the difference between O3 and O3 Pro is, not as significant for, users who are just using O3 and want more of O3. I mean, it's definitely better in some ways, but of course, there are people who are saying, I don't know, I kinda like O3 better, and, like, what's your use case? But the difference between 4.0 and O3 is significant. So if you have been on the fence, not using it very much because you don't know how to use it, definitely do. And one of the use cases that I saw most was setting up your deep research through conversation with O3. Like how this is what I want, right? This is what I want to get out of it. What's the most value that I can get out of it? And that's not how I've been using O3 because O3 is the, like precious resource that we didn't get as many of as the other things. So now you have 200. You get good, get clear with what you want deep research on in your Plus account and use O3 to do that, and then run your deep research. So that's yeah, I think it's going to be exciting.
Gotcha. Well, we'll see if it makes the Ella Marina uh, roster or like the top 5 or top 10 or whatnot that they track. Yeah, I think this may be the beginning of that clearly tiered access to AI and top models and things like that. I don't necessarily agree that that's good or matches their apparent mission, but we'll see what happens.
Well,
I would like to see a lot of like side by side comparisons. So maybe Carl can give us a side by side
yes.
demo and the use case and applications and things like that.
What I think I see is that the people who are paying 200 a month for access to those things, 100% worth it for them, right? Like, absolutely no brainer. They absolutely do that. If you don't have 200 to pay for it and you are expecting to pay the 200 and then get that back from a business model you don't have yet, I don't think that's I don't think that's, like, happening.
Right. Right. And that's my main issue is AI is supposed to be democratizing. It's supposed to lower the barrier. So when they gatekeep like that, that's an issue for me.
Yeah,
But
got it.
again, all right. So, well, we've been talking about models and things like that, but apparently, OpenAI has also been talking about releasing their first open model. So, just to clarify, OpenAI, the company, wants to release a open source model where the weights are open,
Right,
and that can be used and tested and audited and integrated and things like that,
right.
much like Mistral. Mistral has a set of models that they release for open source, and their latest set is Magistral.
Mm,
I think we're going to get a lot of wordplay and pun type names from Mistral, so so
bring it.
just expect that coming in. Now, the big thing about Magistral is that it is
We can still hear you.
okay, is that, it's part of their new family of reasoning models, much like O3 and Gemini 2.5 Pro, those kinds of, models. And so this is a big, this is a big release for the open source, community, um, mainly going towards that whole, democratizing, lower the barrier, letting more people have access to it and take advantage of AI. And, they're releasing 2 models, both Magistral Small and Magistral Medium, which begs you to think that there might be a Magistral Large or a Magistral Venti. Um, but, right now it's being released on the Apache 2.0 license, which is really permissive, and it is, the small model is a 24 billion parameter, and you can actually get that from Hugging Face. And the medium, which is supposed to be more capable, you can get that from their chatbot platform called Le Chat.
Le
So,
chat,
Le
yes.
Chat. It is a French development firm. So, um, yeah, so exciting about that. Oh, and and just a note on the OpenAI open model, is, they've had to delay that. So you gotta wait a little
Right.
bit longer. There's a couple of things that they found in the application of it that they wanna tweak. So that's
Yeah.
probably guardrails thing or a red team thing. So we'll see what comes from that.
And that they said that because they had announced that it would be available in June, and so it is coming this summer, but not this month, is what the announcement about that said. Greg is asking what open models means. I think you, went into it a little bit, but just, like, quick summary, what can you do with an why is it relevant?
Sure, sure. So for open model, it means open weights. So all of the parameters that you set up for your model, right? That can allow you to adjust, learn about the model, analyze it, maybe even replicate parts of it, see how it's going to function, and then tweak upon that. Now, the reason why they say open model and not necessarily open source is because they haven't released the kind of license. And I'm sure it being OpenAI, it's going to have a very specific license. They're probably not just going to release it under the standard Apache 2.0 or the MIT license. They'll have their own thing. But if it is open, then that means it can be, cracked open and looked at all the GUI center and see how it works. That's the main thing.
The GUI center is not the training data, right? This is what
Yeah.
grew out of the training data. Training
Right,
data is in that locked room back there 'cause,
right.
mm, that would be a lot. So, no. Yeah. Alright, cool. And Jeff is saying you can run it locally, and don't have to worry about giving away data or transmitting it if you are hosting your own
That's
model.
true, that's true. And that's one of the big benefits of having an open model or even an open source model is because you wanna run it locally,
Right.
right? And remember, a lot of these you can run, but just slower on regular hardware.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind, right? To run it effectively, there are certain levels that you have to reach. Otherwise, you're going to reach a certain level where it's too large and you don't have effective memory for it. But that goes down a little more on the technical side of things.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian's joined us.
How's it
All
going?
right. Okay, so Brian, I'll give you a second to set up there. Beth, was there another story that you wanted to cover?
There is, and this is something that happened it broke yesterday or maybe the day before, and it sounds like not a big story, but when you go a little deeper, it is a pretty big story. Meta has purchased 49% of
Yeah.
Scale AI,
Yep.
and Scale AI is used by kind of, all of the model labs, right?
Yep.
Like, it's a big deal. Um, so, Meta paid nearly 15 billion, I think 14.8, for 49% stake in the data labeling giant Scale AI. So that's what all of the labs use is the data labeling feature. So it values the startup at 30 billion. Also, the structure is unusual. Like Meta wanted this and tried to get it tried to make everybody happy. So the cash, the 14.8 billion, goes to existing investors, which includes Scale staff, right?
Mm.
And Meta walks away with a large minority stake and a closer relationship. And Scale's 28-year-old CEO is coming to Meta and is heading up a division, and I'm trying to find the name of that division, maybe somebody else knows. Um, and Scale will look for a new CEO. So it is like kind of a sweetheart deal for the CEO and Scale and also Meta, but it will potentially put Scale um in a situation where they are or it potentially puts Scale in a situation where they are competing with their customers. Their highest stake owner is competing with the customers who use the service, right? Like, it's a thing.
Well, I mean, yes, I agree, but we've seen it before.
Yes.
Microsoft. Microsoft has the same weird deal with OpenAI, though. Though at the time of the investment, OpenAI wasn't so profit driven, right? So,
No.
right. So that might have allowed them to sneak in past regulators on those kinds of things. But I think the big takeaway for Meta is Zuckerberg wanted a clear, fast track into
Right.
getting, the Meta AI, offer, up and running. And Scale AI, like you said, is used by everybody for the training data. So now they should have first access. They'll probably say they want first access or first pass at things and the latest things that Scale's coming out with. So we'll see how that works.
So it's
So,
like it's a really nerdy, story. I mean, it's a money story too, but it's a really nerdy story, but it absolutely matters in terms of, like, just a bunch of questions that it opens up.
oh, yeah,
So
like, this is a totally, Yankees move.
right.
Let's buy some talent,
Well,
right?
and when you think about it, right, Meta's business model, I mean, Google has way deeper pockets, but Meta's business model isn't threatened by by Meta's AI.
Right.
Google's really deep pockets is like they're having some shifts. In fact, there was a big round of we're moving in a different direction. I think they uh yeah. I think the search part is being, downsized perhaps, like, there are some like, "Hey, I've worked for Google for X number of years, and my job has been eliminated, so, hey, hire me," kind of
Oh,
stuff that I was seeing.
gotcha.
Yes, Brian, Gareth would like us all to remember that Scale AI is not scaled, so
Nope. Yeah.
so Brian did not receive his portion of the 14.8 billion as a staff member.
No.
Sadly, that's not his company.
Also, I don't want to work for Meta. I've known several people who have, and it's not always a great experience. So, just as happy that Meta did not buy Scaled Consulting. Although I'm sure our CEO Jake would be very happy, maybe perhaps about that buyout. So, I don't know that I would have seen anything about it, but regardless, but yeah, not the same. But that does come up quite a bit. Scale AI versus Scaled. Scaled is a sales consulting company that I help start up the AI arm of, and then we do a lot of AI stuff. So just to keep those, anytime you hear us say scale versus scaled with a K, or like a lot of people don't get the scaled with a K and they call us scalad or something like that, that happens a lot as well. Um, obviously I came in late. I don't know exactly what you guys have already covered. You've touched on a few different things. You talked about Meta. Have you talked about TSMC at all?
Nope, go.
No, lead us off. What do you got?
Just they were basically saying business is good. I mean, that's if I was to summarize very quickly, business is good despite all the uncertainty around tariffs, which actually, as we know, could actually be why business is good right now. Lots of people are buying in advance of perhaps having tariffs. Now, there was a lot of scare from the administration as far as 32% duty on imports from Taiwan, which would obviously come from the main TSMC plants. But as we know, TSMC has been building up very quickly. It's in Arizona. Where's their plant? Arizona, right?
Yeah.
And so they've been building up really quickly here. We've talked about this before in the show. They are not at the level yet in the States of the same, like, Jimmy, what is it? It's 2 versus 3. It's like the micron level of the chip, right? Like 2 is better than 3 or something like that, right? Because it's the size.
Yeah, the nanometer
Nanometers.
set. You can fit more transistors in the same amount of space.
So Taiwan's factories can do the smallest of the small, right? The leading edge, the bleeding edge. The US manufacturing plants cannot do that yet, although they're ramping towards that over the next, it would be months. It would be like 2, 3 years, I think, as they build out that campus there. However, TSMC is obviously doing well, driven. They even talk here about, the sheer drive and push from AI applications, which we would all know. They say that April sales figures underscore the robust demand, with the company reporting NT in total, net total, I'm not sure, 349 billion in revenue. I guess that might be local currency. So it says in parentheses 11.6 billion in revenue, a 48% increase from the previous year and 22% growth from March. Now that I would have to imagine the March number is probably, I would imagine, pushed around by the tariffs. I would think it would have to be if you think you're going to need these chips in the future, and there's been a 90-day pause on it right now. We don't really know what's going to happen there. Maybe it's all scare tactics. Maybe it really is going to happen. I'm sure a lot of businesses are trying to figure that out. What is the current administration's ultimate goal? Scare everybody, or actually impose these 30, in this particular case, a 32% duty tax or tariff? So if your companies are going to need these chips anyway, you're going to pre-spend and try to pull that in, which is why I would think you'd see the March to April. But that doesn't really account probably for the 48% increase over the last year. So just like a lot of the other, like Nvidia, we see in their stocks and stuff like that, TSMC has a bit of a stranglehold on the market. However, it'll be interesting to see how long that lasts into the future. Clearly, other companies are trying to reduce that bottleneck by either creating their own chips. How far away are they? I'm not really sure. Maybe it's going to be a meta move where they just literally buy. I don't know who the next competitor, smaller competitor is to TSMC, but maybe a Meta or an OpenAI or even a Google or Alphabet, I guess, would buy one of those companies and say, well, that's going to help us speed up. So it'll be interesting to see if they hold their market share, just like an NVIDIA. I think NVIDIA is a little bit more diverse in what they offer. So interesting to see here, but we certainly know companies with deep pockets. And we're talking about, sitting in billions of dollars of cash. Meta, Alphabet, billions of dollars of cash. Microsoft, same thing. They have a little bit more wiggle room to obviously pre-buy, start building out their own thing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. And obviously, like we've talked about, the Arizona campus that they have, which is, several, I don't know, hundreds, 40 acres, whatever it was. We've looked at it before. It's kind of like 40 minutes outside one of the main cities. And obviously that's going to be a huge, huge player, and obviously protected from any future tariffs or anything like that, which obviously is going to make a big difference as well. So that was one of the ones I had. I have a few others, but that was one of the ones I want to make sure we covered for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's very important because TSMC is one of like 3 manufacturers that exist. 3. And Intel is one.
Yeah.
They're another, and I forget who the third one is. It might be Samsung, Motorola, or something like that. But everybody else who makes chips, like Google's Tensors, NVIDIA's chips, they're all still made by TSMC. They're still all, and so having those bottlenecks or having those single point of failures for that supply chain is has been a worry.
It's a problem throughout the board, especially with geopolitical tensions between China and Taiwan, right? That also obviously has a huge thing. You could imagine some Chinese blockades could have a massive disruption in the market, and nobody wants to see that. Obviously, I remember living through in the 90s, I believe it would have been. I was a kid, but my teenager, I guess, but my closest buddy, Ryan, his dad worked for a company called Photo Circuits. And Photo Circuits, large company. I can't remember where their main base was, but obviously he worked in the States. But anyway, this was back when one of the plants that had to do with the production of RAM caught fire. And it sent shockwaves through the industry. And it went to like something like absurd that we would laugh at now. But it was something like $50 for 1 megabyte of RAM. If you wanted a 4 megabyte RAM card, it was $200 in 1990s pricing, maybe late 90s. Massive, massive disruption. And all personal computers, like for me who like to tinker and build my own, computer and upgrade it and things like that. I like doing that when I was a kid. It really drove the prices like out of control, and you really couldn't like upgrade your RAM or upgrade your system and memory and that kind of thing. So anyway, it obviously isn't something we want to see. You want to see more diversification, not only for the market, for competitiveness, which will help with pricing. I mean, as much as TSMC is great, like nobody wants all their eggs in that basket. Nobody playing win the AI world right now is probably thrilled about that. So I'm sure there are a lot of moves here to try to make sure they're not the only ones. But to your point, Jimmy, like who are the other players other than the Intels, maybe a Motorola, those kind of things. I actually don't know. Samsung, I'm not sure.
No.
Well,
That
and I just wanna say that when we say the big 3, we're not including China because we don't buy chips from China, and China doesn't tell us about their chip production in a way that gives us information about this. We know they are producing their own chips. We know that, there's information that comes out that they use a different kind of, source. We could write like their chips are light based or have a light technology in them that
Mm.
isn't, what the chips that we're using as the US and other countries. We're not using light-based chips as far as I know right now, and that's not what people are designing in that context.
Right, and
Um
there was actually some news that came out from Huawei. So they're the manufacturer that has been making their latest batch of chips, and that's at the 3 nanometer level, which is pretty advanced.
Mm.
They describe it as, because there's lots of news going on about, "Oh, China's can now make all their chips. What's this gonna mean?" All that kind of story. And so this was a response to that, and their CEO says, "Hey, there's nothing to worry about. We describe our chips as a generation behind, US chips, right? We didn't invent anything, new at that point, um, for now."
Right.
Right? That's what he says. This is like, "For now." So, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. And and a lot of the larger companies in East Asia are these companies that have risen out from an infrastructure of, having to be multiple things, multiple, hardware manufacturers. So, Huawei came out as a telecommunications company, but now they're in chip manufacturing, right? So, that must have taken some time for them to adjust and make that switch. So, I'm sure there'll be more exciting news to come with that back and forth, when it comes to chip manufacturing.
And have you ever seen like the interviews where they do inside like the new plant in Arizona? Like it looks like they're going to Mars. Like when I say like it's the precision of nanometers or whatever, these are people in basically airtight
Yep.
spacesuits working on
Clean suit,
very,
yeah.
very complex pieces of equipment. So it's not just like, oh, fire up the CNC and let's just pop out these chips. It clearly is super technical and like the types of plants where vibration is a problem
Mhm.
and so anyway, I say all to say like the idea that somebody with billions of dollars, an Elon Musk or whoever, is going to spin up a competitor TSMC. Like, probably not because of the complexity. Never mind, probably trying to put your hands on the types of people who are the engineers. In fact, that whole, I think it was CNBC, who does a lot. I'm not like a super fan of CNBC, but I say it a lot on the show, kind of like you, Jimmy. I feel like I say the word a lot. But they do have a lot of news stories on AI that I find interesting, and they pop up on my YouTube feed on my TV. So I guess that's how I end up seeing them. But regardless, they're always interesting to me. And they talked about how they took the Taiwan, experts, engineers, and they would come over to the US to help training for like a 6-month period of time and stuff like that, and how they helped their families. And it was really, really impressive. But obviously it shows the extreme value that these like super men and women engineers are that are capable of doing these kind of things.
Yeah.
It also reminds me when people like bitched and moaned about COVID and they're like, I can't, I'm gonna choke if I have to wear this mask one more second. And I'm like, what this points to the people who work in these situations and have been for decades, in full things or whatever. So I always found that like, the people who just the mask was gonna make them pass out or whatever. And I was like, What about all the people who literally have to work in these spacesuits all day long anyway? Now, I don't want to get political or anything like that. They'll come after me, but it always made me laugh. Anyway, I have some other ones, but I don't know where you guys are on and stuff like that, Jimmy.
Yeah, I've got a couple that we can kind of weave off of that. One of the things that I wanted to bring up was e- all of the big ones, of course, are talking about their latest releases. And one of the things that we got was WWDC. Now, I did watch the keynote. I kept my expectations low, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Uh, nothing really there for me. I'm sure there's a lot of interesting little advancements for the Apple ecosystem. Yes. I did like what they had for creatives and using the iPad and being able to use the video editing components that they can do on iPad. But the thing that I did really interest me was their demo of their live translation.
Yes.
Now,
I agree.
the technology itself, we've seen in other iterations. I believe Google just showed theirs on their I/O. And so I expect this feature to be commonplace, but I think it's a marked effort towards integrating more AI capabilities within your hardware and your OS. And it worked pretty cleanly. If you did not have that feature before, or you weren't, in live translation or building a tool in live translation, it worked perfectly fine. Yep, there's a little bit of delay. It's not absolutely perfect. It's not the sci-fi version for sure. But because you can use it in messages, because you can use it in FaceTime and those kinds of things, if you're in that ecosystem, this is going to be I think this will be a true value add for their clients or for their customer base. And so that's probably the highlight that I like the most coming out of Apple. Now, what's also coming out of WWDC, but there wasn't in the keynote, was talking about their foundational models framework. So WWDC is supposed to be a developers conference. It's developer focus, but what I found with this announcement is they've built a m- integrated, a much more integrated and dev friendly um, framework to use foundational models on device. And so while Google has their Gemma, they have their Gemma model, which is supposed to be used on device, and they have their own methods and things like that. This is a big move forward towards, again, this is one of those key pieces like, okay, Apple, all right, here's some demonstrated progression towards getting more and more AI integrated within your ecosystem. And so you get all of the tool calling. You can do streaming, snapshot streaming, things like that. They're using something called guided generation, which means depending on how you implement it, right? You implement the model based on the use case as opposed to just throw your use case at the model. Your use case determines how you are accessing the model. And so the guided generation is part of the framework that helps you generate more effective output for whatever that piece you're working on, even if it is something like messages or emoticons or emojis or images or things like that. It helps guide or frame the request to the model. And the fact that it's a was it a 2 billion parameter? Or no, 3 billion parameter quantized to 2-bit model that lives on the device. And I always like stuff that's run locally on my hardware, and that answers a lot of security and privacy issues and things like that. So those are the two key things that I drew from from Apple and
It
WD.
wasn't liquid glass? That's not what you took away?
Well, look, that's fine as a design thing.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, this is your new interface. Now, I did hear someone in my feed talking about a hypothetical, and that because of the way liquid glass is built, it would work really well with virtual environments.
Yes.
So that might be the key takeaway for liquid glass and the development of liquid glass is that if you get all of your users trained in this kind of interface, these kind of design elements, this, look
Yeah.
essentially, right, your brand, then transitioning to a 3D AR, VR type environment, and this looks good there, that'll be a much quicker transition for your customer base.
I will say it's very Apple looking. It's right in where you would want to see their brand kit. I actually, as much as I joke, because it wasn't really AI or Apple Intelligence focused. The one thing I'd say about WWDC, and I did not watch it live. I watched Marcus Brownlee and maybe one other person's reviews of it. I think Apple's smart in the sense that they have already taken the lumps when it comes to Siri not being where it needs to be, when it comes to AI not, they're not delivering. I am the first one to say I feel the pain because I upgraded to a 16 and did not need to. There's nothing about it that makes me feel like that was worth my money, but I did it because I thought, yeah, Apple's going to have some really cool stuff here. And honestly, most of it has been a disappointment. I mean, the majority of it has been a disappointment. However, if I'm the Apple at this WWDC, they're like, oh, they really sort of went towards, like the rebranding everything to 26, the liquid glass, other dev type stuff, or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that totally makes sense. I would not keep, setting my own feet on fire by suggesting that AI is at a point. If you've already taken the lumps, this is the time to sit back and get it exactly the way you want because you already missed the first cycle of it. Well, why take the PR hit again for the stock for anything? You're actually better off by saying less right now, making sure you have something that truly is going to meet the standards of where Siri should have been, but isn't yet, as well as some other stuff, like you said, on device type language models and things like that. So yeah, I don't know. I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I was expecting. I think it was a smart move to downplay that a little bit, take a breather. I feel like we saw this with Google, and now look where Google is. And they took their lumps and they moved a little too fast and were pushing things, and people were kind of all over 'em for it. But that's last year's news at best. Nothing about 2025 is people laughing at Google. I mean, I would hope not at this point. Between what they got going on with Agent AI Studio, Agent Engine, Vertex, all the things they're building in that ecosystem, just to name a few. They're, nobody's laughing, I don't think, at Gemini. Well, maybe Carl is, but nobody's really laughing at Google the way they were. I'm certainly not.
Right.
So on that part. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up that like it didn't really surprise me today. I do have one really quick one, and this literally just it's like news because I got access to it. Search Labs, which is Google, speaking of, sent me an email today and they said, hey, good news, you're off the waiting list for Ask for Me. And I was like, yeah, no, don't know what that is. So, happy I'm off the waiting list for it. Way to go, Search Labs. I think what happens is I go to Search Labs every once in a while for their experimental stuff. And I just say, sign me up, sign me up, sign me up. And then you get an email one day and you're like, oh, great. It's like Christmas. So what is Ask for Me? Well, let me just bring it up on the screen and I will show you what Ask for Me is supposed to do. And we can decide whether we think that is cool or not. So not so much a demo as is like this is news because I literally got it today. So this is Search Labs Ask for Me, and you can see that right now it says more coming soon, but this is basically where you can play. So let's go ahead and say car detailing. And I'm going to go ahead and say detailing near me. And then what we're going to do here is if we go down, we get our normal Google results. We still have our AI mode up here, but now we have this Ask for Me in the middle. And so it says Google will call local auto detailing services to ask about the prices and availability. Get started. So if I get started now, it says, what type of auto detailing service do you need? I'm going to say that I need Actually, you know what? One of my cars does not have front side window tint on it. It just has the rear windows, the back two windows. So that is something in the Florida sun I would want. I happen to have a Hyundai Santa Fe, at least the one that needs the tinting on it. Great. And let's see, do I need this service? I'm flexible. Next 48 hours, within a week. Yeah, I'm flexible because it's probably on something. And now it wants to know, do I want this for my email or text? And I guess if I said email there, it says your request summary, service you want, front side window tint, when I'm flexible, contact me, location, and I'm going to say submit. And I guess we will just have to report back next Wednesday on how many emails maybe I get because of that. I'm not really sure. I don't know what I just signed myself up for, but I did it for the show. I did it for all of y'all. So you can see. But these are the fun things that, that Google puts out. They're part of their search lab. Does not mean they're going to go public. Does not mean I've had AI mode access for months. Months I've had AI mode on it. And now it's generally available to everybody. And in fact, that's one of my other news stories, was just to say that the Wall Street Journal was saying publishers and blogs and stuff are definitely seeing the hit because of the release of AI mode. And why wouldn't you? Right. So if Google is now basically saying, hey, you can also search like you used to, or we'll just give you the answer. And they already had their AI search function, but now you can use AI mode, which makes it feel much more like a ChatGPT type interface where it thinks a little bit, gives you an answer. You can ask follow-ups. It's got memory of what you just said, those kind of things. So are we surprised here? But this is what we've been talking about. What is Google's play when such a large part of their revenue stream is ads? And how are they going to work that out when they're sort of circumnavigating maybe where some of those ads are displayed? So really, really interesting there. So one thing that's sort of like maybe just in test phase, they'll never see the light of day. They ask for me. We'll have to see. I'll give you my experience when I get 19 emails from people about auto tinting, window tinting. And then, something like AI mode, which wasn't experimental for months and now is generally available to everybody. And now we're seeing the ripple effects through the industry of people saying like, oh no, we're watching our numbers go down on our publishing websites because of this.
Yes.
Yeah. Big, big, big deal.
Absolutely. Two other quick weaves off Google. Google added a VO3 fast version of the viral video generation, and the people that I see who are using it are happy with the results. Like it is much faster. I think it uses fewer credits if you're in a credit-based thing that's accessing it. Or if or maybe it's just fast if you have like the ultra subscription. Also, OpenAI finalized a deal with Google Cloud for additional compute because OpenAI seems to be like, if we build it, they will come kind of for the compute. And if we remember a couple months ago, I don't remember what the announcement was, but they were saying we'd love to roll it out to all of you if you have compute that we could, get, "Hey, hit me up, DM me, my DMs are open," right? So that that is interesting because they are continuing to release things and they're continuing to tease the new releases. This release of O3 Pro and moving O3, expanding O3 in the Plus and Teams, and the Teams accounts, the Teams levels that gives us sets up the framework for GPT-5, right? I don't think there's anything else that they've promised that they're going to do before GPT-5. So I feel like we're like checking off the boxes before that's ready to come. So those are my two. Actually there is Google and the UK government unveiled an AI tool named Extract, which is really interesting, I think. It uses Gemini AI's ability to digitize millions of planning documents, so that they can make faster decisions on housing and infrastructure. And if you are in a city or somewhere where that process takes a really long time, this is very exciting. Officials said the tool is capable of streamlining processes that would take a planning professional 2 hours down to just 40 seconds, right? So this is that like protein analysis, like AlphaFold or like those kinds of things. This is one of those places where bam, digitizing it has made it very accessible and much faster. And so Gemini's multimodal capabilities are being used in this. So it reads, interprets, and converts the planning files, including blurry maps and handwritten notes, into digital formats. And that is one of the places where Gemini shines, right? The ability to do those sorts of things. It's being trialed in councils and slated for nationwide rollout in spring 2026. And that is in the context of aiming to meet 1.5 million new homes built targets. And because like kind of across the world, certainly across Europe, Canada, and the US, there is housing crunch stuff happening for a variety of reasons. But being able to speed up the approval of or the discussion, which leads to an approval of certain projects, is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's same day for that step of the process. Yeah, I think that'll be very helpful. Okay,
all right, that's it for me. So
I I have a I have a story that I'm really excited about. And it's about Hugging Face, and they have released their MCP connector. So the main function of this MCP connector is it allows you to connect your MCP to the Hugging Face hub. Now, what is the hub? The hub is basically everything. You get access to Spaces, and Spaces contains all of those model builds and services builds. You can access the models from Hugging Face. You can you can use their papers for their semantic search. You can explore different data sets that they have access there, and you can all do that through their MCP. And so the main purpose they built this is so that you could use your cursor or use, whatever your favorite vibe coding app is, plug in this MCP connector and have access to all of that via that one interface or that one touch point, which I think developers are going to absolutely love. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's a significant one. So not maybe not huge news as in sweeping the AI space, but just having that ease of connection is going to help out a lot of people. And now it's time for AI in science. All right, so coming from the University of Hong Kong, they describe their robot bird that will fly at 45 miles per hour through forests, no GPS or light. Yeah. So the University of Hong Kong has created a system that can be applied to drones and MAVs or MAVs, micro aerial vehicles. Um, the difference is drones is an umbrella term for anything that's unmanned, and MAVs are specifically up to a certain size. They're basically under like 6 inches wide and things like that. Stuff that you could break down and put in your backpack. So the now most drones when they're implemented, it's usually in a place that's either mapped out, they have GPS, they have some other guidance system that pre-plans a route for them, right? So this new system that they're calling Super, um, they call it the Safety Assured High Speed Aerial Robot, but they're labeling it Super so everybody remembers it instead.
Yeah.
Um, um, Right now, it's flying at speeds that exceed 20 meters per second. It can avoid obstacles as thin as 2.5 millimeters. So think about power lines, twigs,
Yeah.
and things like that. It it's super compact. It has a wheelbase of 280 millimeters and a takeoff weight of 1.5 kilos. So this is very small, very light, can be kind of taken wherever. Uh, a high degree of agility. They tested in dense forests at night. So its primary sensor is it uses LiDAR, right? So it's a 3D light detection and ranging sensor, right? So it kind of makes sort of a map by bouncing uh, uh, lasers off of everything, right? Um, and it can detect up to 7 obstacles up to 70 meters away, with pinpoint accuracy. So what part of this is a hardware and software combination, right? So as they design this and develop this, the software should be able to be applied in more and more drones as long as you have the right kind of sensors attached to it. But what it does is this hardware is combined or paired with the software that creates that's an advanced planning framework. So it generates two trajectories at the same time, right? So this is what the AI part is doing. It's doing the one flight path, which is optimizing speed by venturing into even spaces it doesn't recognize. It just wants to find the cleanest line, like you were an F1 racer. And then they have another plan that is generated that is for the prioritizes safety. So it's dodges everything. And between the two, they find the most, the best of both worlds. So, um, so what's kind of amazing is because of this application, we're foreseeing drones that are going to be able to, get into places very quickly. So of course, right now, their primary idea is that it'll be for search and rescue and other of those kinds of applications, or just getting to places where people are going to take time or be difficult to get to, so that they can get their eyes on things. Maybe even take small payloads. So if, like in search and rescue, you can zip through dense forests, try and find maybe a lost hiker or something like that. Maybe even take them a payload, translate that information back to the rescue team, things like that. So, uh, but the technology itself, this technology is a huge leap forward in being able to maximize speed and safety in an unmanned vehicle. So, can this be applied to other autonomous vehicles? Can this be applied to larger versions of drones? So we'll see what the application is, and this might be a hardware and software package that's just integrated into any vehicle, just so that if you turn on the drive for me mode or the pilot for me mode, it will this will be the safest route and the quickest route that it can take. So that's my AI and science story. I think there's a big, huge improvement in the technical application of these technologies, and hopefully we will see it integrated soon in the future. All right. Does anybody else have any stories that they want to get to?
Quick one.
Yeah.
Just go read Sam Altman's new blog when you have a chance, The Gentle Singularity. It's not gonna blow you away, but I still think it's really interesting anytime any of our higher AI CEOs put out something where they're thinking. So it's interesting. I do want to call out this one paragraph really quickly because it sounds good for me. It says, "We, the whole industry, not OpenAI, are building a brain for the world. It'll be extremely personalized and easy for everyone to use. We will we will be limited by good ideas. For a long time, technical people in the startup industry have made fun of the quote, the idea guys, people who had an idea and were looking for a team to build it. And now looks to me that like they're about to have their day in the sun. Everything's coming up Millhouse for Brian. That's all I'm saying. That's what I wanted to share. I'm the idea guy. And I've even seen with things like, Project Bruno, which we don't talk about, That is a perfect example of something that would have been outside of my ability without going and grabbing a team. And now I'm able to go from idea to concept to an MVP of it, all on my own so far, with obviously some input from the team here and help a little bit there. But 99% of it has been really just me working through the problem and using the AI tools I have. So just wanted to call it out. There's a lot more in that blog. Go read it. The gentle singularity, or just go look for Sam Altman's blog and it'll literally come up in any Google search. So go check that out. But I know we're out of time to discuss it more.
Okay, well, that's a good note to wrap it up on. So, again, thank you to chat for everybody who joins us on our live stream, all of our viewers and subscribers. And remember, you can always continue the discussion in our Slack community. So head over to the dailyaishowcommunity.com to sign up to that community. For tomorrow, we've got a story on, or we're going to be talking about Perplexity Labs and maybe some other AI agents as well. Some of the stuff that Carl's been showing us, like with GenSpark, he's been really impressed with.
We're
So,
probably gonna be doing 2 shows, so Perplexity Labs tomorrow, maybe not GenSpark, 'cause there's so much. GenSpark just released something new.
there is a ton of things that are coming out. I mean, I just even heard that Manus added VO3 to part of their process. So we'll see how that all works out.
Yeah.
And then Friday is our 2-week grab bag of AI. Right. Trying to do a little name change there or whatnot, and where we're just going to be talking about all the stuff that has really interested us or piqued our interest and things that we want to kind of go down the rabbit hole on. And also on Friday, join us for the next Vibe Coding Live and the Sci-Fi AI show. Remember to keep an eye out for the conundrum that comes out on Saturdays and the newsletter, which you can sign up for at thedailyAIshow.com.
You got it.
Yeah. All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. And that's it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow. Aloha.